Hello everybody, Raven Knight here. I was sent a video a few days ago from a YouTube channel called Funny or Die. Now, my first thought when reading the channel name was that this channel is all about comedy sketches or sharing funny videos or jokes. That's what I expected, so I was quite excited when I checked out the video title sent to me called These Cartoons Taught Kids to Oppress Women. I don't know about you, but that sounds like comic gold to me. I mean, I just laughed my ass off from the title alone. Surely this was going to be a great satirical jab at modern feminist talking points and their brain-dead conspiracy theories. Nope. I was very much disappointed. Well, Funny or Die, you've made a promise to me with that channel name. Time to see if you deliver. First, let me change up my avatar. There we go. And let's see if we're about to laugh or if the channel is about to die.
What's wrong with her? She's a woman, isn't she? But I can remember the good old days when we didn't have these problems.
Firstly, that clip you showed is not a cartoon, so already we're off to a bad start. Secondly, I don't think that soundbite you're playing is meant to be paired with that clip. It looks like a security camera video of a guy groping a girl's butt and her likely about to beat the crap out of him. Why? Well, just look at these two. Girl's tatted up, and I think she might be a waitress at this restaurant, which means she's already highly strung and stressed from dealing with people and has absolutely no tolerance for bullshit. Meanwhile, guy over here looks like he's built like an Ethiopian poster child and with the raw male charisma of a pool noodle. And as the old saying goes, spank a girl with tats, you're gonna regret that. Or something like that. I'll admit I'm not up to date with these modern turns of phrases.
Cartoons have been so dreadful to women throughout time. Groping became so normal, people forget that it's a crime.
Quite false, in fact. The two cartoons you've shown do not have any groping in them, so your visual aid is not supporting your claim. As a matter of fact, I don't remember groping in any cartoon back in the day, at least not that I can remember. I see it far more in modern cartoons than I do in the ones of the olden days.
Boys were given big high fives while girls were forced to shrink. But let me step aside for someone more qualified to help you think.
And just like that, I've lost all respect for you, your intellectual fortitude, and your backbone. You literally are saying you're done talking about this phenomena and are handing it over to a woman because women are more qualified to talk about sexual harassment. Firstly, who is the woman you're handing it over to? Is she a professor of criminal statistics, a victim of sexual harassment herself, a historian on cartoons? Who is this woman and why should we care? Is it just because she's a woman? Why is she more qualified than other women who might disagree with your supposition? What if another woman comes along and says, I disagree? Who's got more seniority there? It's like I've said many times before. If you are such a coward, you make a video about a topic you don't feel qualified to talk about and then hand the reins over to someone else, you shouldn't have made the video. Do your research and make a video about it. So that way you have the qualifications. You've done the research. But, all right, we'll go this route. All right, lady, Bird Brain has handed you the reins. Let's see how qualified you are to teach us and help us think.
A whistling wolf is harmless, they say, till you look like dinner. Cartoon behavior taught to a kid, making Betty Boop pro for her quid. She just wanted to pay the rent, but no one had heard of consent.
So every clip you just showed of Betty Boop involved the deviants being the bad guys. Their behavior was not meant to be seen as good. We were not meant to like it. Betty Boop is the heroine trying to avoid the bad guys who act this way. No one was taught how to treat women by this. We were taught to hate men who do this. We were taught to dislike it when men do this kind of thing. Also, side note, this song is terrible. She just wanted to pay rent. No one had heard of consent. What's that supposed to mean? Are you saying Betty Boop wanted to pay her rent but couldn't, so the landlord was offering her the chance to pay with her body? Where's that in the visual aids you're showing? What episode are you talking about? Like, what does this mean? I have trouble thinking a kid's cartoon like that would show such a thing.
Olive oil, dealing with so much aggression. Oh no. She got treated just like a possession. A woman's not a wishbone.
First, again, this song is awful structurally. Like, okay, let me break this down. That is 11 syllables to form that one line. Then follow up by a jolting, oh no, right before a pregnant pause before going into the next line, which was 10 syllables. That's That's awful. That's so clunky. This could have been fixed by either fixing the first line to have fewer syllables or adding no at the beginning of the second line so it gets another syllable and removing the pregnant pause. But enough analyzing this crap writing. Do you not understand Popeye? Olive Oyl is a dame who is the object of Popeye and Bluto's affection. Both want to win her heart, and Olive, in this very scene, is dictating the way they can do so. But if you actually watch the show, quite often Bluto takes an underhanded or cheap approach to win her over, quite often resulting in kidnapping her or trying to force her to love him. Meanwhile, Popeye works to save Olive from him.
If you don't understand where you're allowed to put your hand, let me help you with some simple tips. I mean, it really shouldn't have to, but here we go. Just don't touch me, and don't kiss me, don't ogle me like a creepy little psycho. How would you feel if I came up and grabbed you by the...
All right, got it. Don't touch you, don't kiss you, don't ogle you. Got it. Many men know not to do these things to women already. In fact, in most cartoons, the men who do these things are the villains. They're the ones we want to see get punished. Bluto is a great example of that. However, let's talk about ogling for a moment. There's nothing wrong with being attracted to a beautiful woman. I am attracted to beautiful women. Crazy, I know. In fact, there are cartoons where the woman does the same thing to men. In fact, I'll give you an example. In the Animaniacs, they have a character named Minerva Mink. And the whole joke of her character, her episodes, is that she's so attractive, every male that looks at her goes nuts just from the sight of her. Like, she is just so gosh darn attractive that anytime she does anything, flip her hair, walk down the road, anything, guys see her and just go bonkers.
Whisper sweet nothings in your ear.
Oh, yes.
And she finds the whole thing droll and annoying until the end of the episode where she sees a hot stud of a guy that she has a very similar reaction to, and it's revealed she's just as basic and petty as the men who lust after her. That's the joke.
I've had enough of this.
Oh, hi, Minerva.
Humana.
Take a long romantic walk under the starlight.
Ooh, I'd like that.
See, here's the fact. Man or woman, we are drawn to physical beauty. And there's nothing wrong with that. We should appreciate beauty. We should appreciate a man or woman who is physically attractive. But before we move on, I want to point this out. You say, how would I feel if you grabbed me inappropriately? Newsflash. I have been grabbed inappropriately, and I didn't like it. It was awful. The girl who did it was doing it to make fun of me. She was doing it to belittle me. You seem to be under the impression that men are the only ones who can behave like degenerates and lecherous pigs. Newsflash. Women can be just as bad. Women can be just as bad. So take that crap, that sexist crap you got going on, and toss it out the door. Just get rid of it. I don't want to hear it.
For every Laverne and Shirley and Mary Tyler Moore, there were those who weren't allowed to make it after all.
For every Laverne and Shirley and Mary Tyler Moore, there are those who weren't allowed to make it after all. That did not rhyme. Holy crap, who wrote this? Here, I hate to fix your bad writing, but all right, I'll show you what to do. For every Laverne and Shirley and Mary Tyler Moore, there are those who never got to make it through the door. The door being the metaphor for success. See, I did it. I don't even agree with your nonsense, and I can write songs better than you. What is this song? It's deplorably bad.
We could play bikini bingo, but a woman couldn't be a CEO in a world where half there was king bro.
What does any of that have to do with cartoons teaching us to oppress women? That's the title of this video. These cartoons taught us to oppress women. That's the title. These cartoons taught us to oppress women. Have you forgotten the point of the video? I don't even care about this obvious feminist bullshit you're spitting. I just want to know why you've gotten so far off the point. What do the cartoons... Here's the thing. No, I need a timeout. I actually need to address this. Cartoons teach us to oppress women. That is the thesis statement. You are now no longer talking about sexual oppression or mistreatment. You're now talking about discrimination in the workplace or women not being able to become CEOs or anything like that. That has nothing to do with cartoons or how women are portrayed in cartoons or how women are treated in cartoons. You just wanted to go on a feminist rant. That owl douche said you were more qualified to explain how cartoons have oppressed you, but so far you've only mentioned 2 cartoons, Popeye and Betty Boop. You failed to make either of those stick, and now have left cartoons entirely. More qualified to help me think? You're not qualified to make me a sandwich.
Let's talk about Pepe Le Pew. Always trying to get with you. I don't think so, boo.
Did a child write your lyrics? Because only a child would have written that last line. But okay, sure. Let's talk about Pepe Le Pew. The joke with almost every Pepe Le Pew cartoon was that a female black cat would somehow get a white stripe on her back due to paint or polish or something. Pepe would assume she was a female skunk, therefore, and make with the flirting and simping. Dude was thirsty and desperate for water. And the whole joke is she tries to get away from him as fast as she can, and he is always just 1 step behind her or 2 steps ahead of her. You know, that's kind of the joke. Her desperation to get away from this stinky skunk and him always being right there. Now, I'll be the first to admit that Pepe's humor was generally the weakest of the Looney Tunes because all of his comedy revolved around that one joke. And the big punchline at the end was always the revelation that the female he was chasing was not a skunk, but now she's decided to just fully accept his affections while he is now trying to escape her. The joke being he got his just desserts and is now the victim of his own bad behavior.
Baby doll! Ah, my darling, I am so glad you... So glad you... Ooh, glad I... Oy vey, what a day.
Another good example is in a Johnny Bravo episode. You're familiar with Johnny Bravo. He could have been someone you brought up in this. He's a womanizer. He flirts with every girl he sees. He's totally attracted to women and treats them like objects half the time. That's kind of the joke of his character. There was one episode where Johnny, who womanized a gypsy lady, turns him into a woman, and he gets catcalled and leched after and shouted at and, teased and sexualized and all that. And he realizes just how bad it is on the other side of the fence. You could have talked about that.
Man, you're hot.
Ew. He should try that brushing the tongue thing.
Nakilala na kita, diba?
What?
Bonjour, mon petit jour.
Where are all these guys coming from?
Du macht mir Spaß.
Now this is crazy.
Your name must be Destiny, because Destiny is in my future.
That's enough! My name's not Destiny!
But see, that's the point. We aren't supposed to like the characters who act that way. That's why Johnny had to see it from the other side. That's why having Pepe Le Pew at the very end of the episode run away from the cat is funny, because we like to see them get their just desserts. We laugh at their stupid antics and look forward to seeing them get punished or pulverized for their antics. We're not taught to be like them, but to laugh at their stupidity. That's the joke. I'm sorry I have to explain cartoons to you, madam qualified to tell me about this.
Disney princesses, let themselves be treated blue.
Wow, what a tempo and melody shift. What the hell? Okay, Disney princesses let themselves be treated blue. Not usually. I mean, you're showing Cinderella and Aladdin. Cinderella was abused by her stepmother and stepsisters. There was no sexual harassment in the movie. In fact, I don't think any guy treated her poorly. I don't know of any. As for Jasmine, she didn't let herself get treated badly. Keep in mind, her whole conflict was that her father wanted her to marry a prince. She rejected every prince who she met, and her father let her do that. He didn't like it, but he respected her wishes when she rejected a prince.
Dearest, you've got to stop rejecting every suitor who comes to call. The law says you must be married to a prince by your next birthday.
I mean, he's the damn sultan. He could have just forced her to marry whoever he damn well pleased. He could have said, I'm sorry, Jasmine, you don't get a say. I'm making you marry this guy because I told you to. That would have been sexist, but he doesn't. The sultan was kind of a G. He was kind of a cool guy. Jasmine had a lot more autonomy than most Middle Eastern daughters of that era. Now, if you're talking about when she was captured by Jafar and sexualized there, you might have a point, except Jafar's the bad guy. And again, we're not supposed to like the things Jafar does. Bruh.
Ariel gave up her voice for a random dude, literally taking her voice.
You know, I've always hated this argument. Ariel gave her voice to a man. That's so sexist. Okay, time for a reality check. Eric did not ask her to give up her voice. He didn't request it. He didn't even know she did it. He did not demand it. She did it of her own free will of desire. This was not the case of a man forcing her to do anything. She chose to do it to defy her father and to get to land so she could hopefully win his heart. In many ways, I see this action as a testament of love. She made a sacrifice to be with the man she loved. Consider this from another perspective. Think about what men do. How do you think a man feels trying to just ask a girl out? From a man's perspective, let me tell you, I get scared. I get nervous. I get fearful of rejection or ridicule. Do you know how nerve-wracking it is for a young guy in high school or college to see a beautiful girl that they really like and work up that courage to say, I'm going to ask her out. I'm going to ask her out. I'm going to ask her out. You know what plays through that guy's mind? Maybe she already has a boyfriend. Maybe she won't be interested in me. She's probably never heard of me. Oh, she's going to say no. She's going to laugh at me. She's going to text about this. She's going to put it on Twitter or Facebook about this loser who tried to ask her out. I'm going to be humiliated. That is something we have to weigh on in our minds constantly when we play that game. And that's only one example of sacrifices that men sometimes have to make for love. What's wrong with Ariel doing this? You might say that's too far. Okay, fair, but that is still her choice to make. No one made her make that choice. She always had the option to walk away and say, nah, I'm not going to do that, but she chose to make it. Eric didn't make her do it. Ursula didn't make her do it. Ursula just offered it. She took it. You know, to me, making a sacrifice or taking a risk when love is the result or happiness is the result should be inspiring, not ridiculed. But that's just me.
Sleeping Beauty slept the whole time and Belle suffered from Stockholm Syndrome.
Sleeping Beauty did not sleep the whole time, just for the later portion of the movie. Kind of where the title comes from, though, so I don't see why that's an issue. And how is that sexual harassment that she effing slept? And then Belle having Stockholm Syndrome, yeah, that's a common joke, but okay, to put the meme aside, I see it more as her and Beast both learning to find the good nature within himself that led to Belle falling in love with him. Because the whole thing was, it wasn't just Belle who saw the good in Beast, it was Beast who discovered the good in himself. If you watch the movie, Beast has kind of accepted the reality that he'll never get out of this. He'll always be a monster, and he starts to act like a monster. Like, you even see this in the scene after he saves Belle from the wolves. How does he fix his wounds? He licks them like an animal. He licks them like a wounded animal. He started to just adopt a more beastly demeanor and attitude and personality. Like, he acts more like an animal than a man half the time. But through Belle's kindness and compassion, she actually helps him realize maybe there is some humanity behind him. I mean, think of the way he dresses most of the time. Beast at first is shirtless, except for a cape and some trousers. That's it. But then as the movie goes on, we see him put on a tunic. We see him dress up. We see him shave his mane. Like, he does a lot to try to appear more human so that in the end, he can become more human. Beast was discovering more about himself along the way, and Belle was learning to see it.
I've never felt this way about anyone. I want to do something for her.
I've never seen so many books in all my life.
You like it?
It's wonderful.
Then it's yours.
Oh, thank you so much.
You know, that I think was the lesson. It wasn't just Stockholm Syndrome. But I get it. It's the meme. She got Stockholm Syndrome. I laugh at it too, so I'll let that slide. But again, why am I explaining this all to someone who's more qualified to talk about this?
Always the same. I know how it's gonna.
But sorry, I had freaking whiplash. What? Sudden tempo and melody shift again. Could you pick a melody and stay with it? Whoa! Oh, go chew glass. Are you serious? You climb the corporate ladder, you break gas ceilings, and your hard work is starting to matter, but you are still oppressed. Your body is still not yours. You'll never be satisfied with you. All the strides and steps taken for gender equality in the workplace, but my body still isn't mine. You know, I'd tell you to go screw yourself, but let's be fair, you're the only one who's ever going to.
Even Sailor Moon, broken modern tunes, toxic touching is everywhere.
And I'm just going to put this image over that. I'm going to cover that up so YouTube doesn't get upset for me freezing on that site. But Sailor Moon, I don't recall her ever getting sexually harassed. But that clip that I'm covering up, that's not from Sailor Moon. That boob grab, that isn't from that. Totally different animation style. I'm not sure which anime that is specifically, but that's clearly an ecchi, where boob grabs are commonplace. Because ecchi is erotica, and not for children to watch or learn anything from, so you win no points with that one. The fact you had to go to erotica anime just to sell your points shows you had no ground to stand on to start with.
Near the moon, Judith fought off goons, Judy Jetson wears mini skirts. You better come correct.
Judith Lapierre? The woman who claimed that 2 Russian cosmonauts sexually abused her in 1999? This may sound like a dumb question, but what does that have to do with cartoons? Oh, and Judy Jetson wears a miniskirt to look attractive and feminine. I know that's a sin for you, and you can't stand any woman choosing to embrace their feminine qualities and appear more attractive, but, newsflash, some women want to be appealing to the opposite sex. Crazy, I know.
Show us some respect, you know times are changing.
I love how in every one of these clips you show, the woman is beating the hell out of the man. You know, like that was the whole point, that the man who acted like a creep ended up getting their comeuppance in the end. Geez, it's almost like these cartoons taught us not to be creeps. Gosh, who would have thought that? Ah, look at that. The woman from earlier did beat up the guy. Told you. Nope, not reading that. I have some stuff to say, so excuse me while I mansplain for a minute. Okay. Seriously though. This video was awful. Like, the style of presentation, the way the narrator spoke, the way the song was written, the stylization of it, the visual aids, and the message itself. All of it trite. If you agree with their stance that old cartoons oppress women or teach you to oppress women, then you should hate this video because they did a very poor job of explaining why, how, and in what manner. They just showed a bunch of clips on the screen and asked you to just accept it. But if you don't agree with them, which I would hope most of you do, then honestly, you're going to hate this video, obviously, because it's all trite and not doing a good job of trying to convince you otherwise. The whole thing opens with the dude telling you, hey, you know, cartoons were bad, but I'm not qualified to tell you about it. Let a woman come in and tell you about it. Like she's at all more qualified than anyone else to talk about it just because she is a woman. And then we go into all these examples that don't make a lick of sense. She brings up Betty Boop and Popeye, but doesn't explore anything within them other than just throwing shade at them. She talks about Pepe Le Pew, not realizing that the joke of Pepe Le Pew is that it all comes back to bite him in the end. She leaves out some cartoons that I honestly would consider a little bit too far in some cases. But even then, most of the time when they do go too far, there is, again, comeuppance, which I think was the point. Here's the thing. In old cartoons like Betty Boop, like Popeye, like all these others, there was a common theme with the guys who acted like creeps, okay? Those guys were not liked. They were villains. They were bad guys. They were monsters. They were evil. They were there to hurt the woman. And quite often, it was either the task of the woman or the male hero to save the day, to either get away, bring him out the comeuppance, or beat the bad guy. That was usually how it worked. Why is that? Because here's the reality. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Many men, and women too, but we're talking about men here. Many men do have a desire for sexual pleasure or gratification. So we teach children that's what bad people do when they accost a woman or harass a woman or hurt a woman for sexual pleasure. We tell them that's bad, and we show that by showing the bad guys on the screen doing that. And they say, that's the bad guy doing that. You don't act like that guy. Well, why can't I act like that guy? Because he's going to get his. And then we see Popeye beat up Bluto. We see Betty Boop outsmart the bad guy. We see the bad guy get beat up by his wife. Like, we see these things happen. Why? Because we're taught very early on that's not a good way to act. And I think that's what escaped the notice of the people who made this video and the people who make these arguments. But I want to say this for the record. I just want to say this to wrap everything up. The message of this video was to tell you that all these old cartoons were secretly sexist. That was the goal, to tell us that these old cartoons were secretly sexist. They failed in their goal to do it. But here's the true irony of it all. The channel that we saw this on is called Funny or Die, which made me think this is supposed to be a comedy channel, like where we see funny things, where we're supposed to laugh. Well, I didn't laugh. There was nothing funny. In fact, I cringed my way through this whole song, if you can call it a song. It was awful. This whole thing was awful. So, before we go, Funny or Die, you made a promise. And I'd hate to call you a liar, so come on to the back, boy. Time to put a dog down.